Good. How's it going?
A couple months ago, Jordan was kind of the unknown. I'm sure he had a lot to prove to himself, to you guys, and the rest of the world. Is Jordan any different here 12 months later?
Oh yeah, definitely. Just to see how much he's grown over the last year has been awesome. Yeah, fun to just be around him, watch him grow as a leader, as a player, and really take those big steps that he did last year to get us where we went. But yeah, I'm expecting more of the same. Him coming in, he's done a great job so far, so it'll be fun watching him improve this year.
Same mentality, same leadership qualities, kind of the behind-the-scenes stuff. Has any of that changed?
No, same guy. That's the best thing about Jordan. He comes into work every day. He's the same guy, and just ready to be the best player that he can be and help the team be the best that they can be. So he never wavers from that. It's fun to watch.
How different is it to build an offense right now compared to a year ago?
Oh, it's night and day. It's night and day because, like last year going into the draft, we had maybe 3 receivers on the roster. We had 2 tight ends on the roster. So it was just one of those things where you didn't really know what direction you could go yet because you didn't know who's going to be on your team and what skill set they had. And even going into camp and going into the season, it was the same deal, like how much can you put on these guys' plates and allow them to go out and execute. So now everyone has a year under their belt, so to speak. It's been great to just know what these guys are good at, what they need to improve on, and just allow them, to just go ahead and be the best players that they can be.
So you basically pick up from where you left off with that resurgence later
Yeah.
this season?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're just coming in, and I wouldn't say everyone's just got to have the same mindset of improving, starting from the foundation, but then being able to, take those steps faster than we did last year and really improve a lot.
Really for much of the year last year, but you still had him around at times. What's it like just, with him not here anymore?
Yeah, I mean, it's always sad when stuff like that happens. Obviously, he was such a huge part here for such a long time, and a phenomenal player and phenomenal leader. So it's just been different. Like last year, other guys had to step up and basically take the room over, and that's where you saw guys like Elton and Josh Myers really, just become the leaders of the room. So that was fun to watch from that aspect. Obviously, losing David wasn't fun, but that's one thing about football. You just got to move on and play with the guys you have and make the best of it.
I understand you guys are going to cross-train Jordan Morgan eventually throughout this offseason. He seems to really want to play at left tackle. What have you seen early on that make you think he can be a good left tackle?
Yeah, he's got good movement skills. Just watching him out there, he's natural on the edge. He looks comfortable out there. There's obviously some technique stuff we got to clean up, just like anybody. But I'm excited to work with him and just watch him and see. I wouldn't say he's a tackle. I wouldn't say he's a guard. I just want to see where he fits best for us and with our best 5 out there. So that may be a tackle. It might not be. But I'm excited to work with him and just see you can see his athleticism when he's out there. He's a pretty talented guy.
Take, do you think, to get his hands better? I saw a bunch of clips, and they were almost always out
Yeah.
there. Is that something that can be done in a matter of weeks, or is that months, or is that years?
I think it'll take a little bit of time, but if you're intentional about it, to really focus on improving things like that, I think he can get that fixed.
Do you know why he did it that way? Did they not teach inside techniques?
Yeah, no, I'm not sure what he was coached in the past, so it's just something we'll just have to work on here.
Would you like to keep Elton and Zach at left guard and right tackle, even though they can play any of the 5 spots, just so they can focus on one thing?
Yeah, I mean, the fun thing about where we're at right now with the O-line is you can look at it, and there's a lot of different combinations of guys, whether tackle, guard, center, whoever, that you can move around and still have a pretty good O-line. So I'm excited to kind of see how it all shakes out. Obviously, I think Elton's best position is guard or center. And then Zach, he seems to be pretty good on the edge at right tackle. So we'll kind of see how it all shakes out. And you got other guys in there who are going to be fighting for spots too. So it's going to be a pretty interesting battle.
Talking about Jordan's athleticism, Morgan, have you ever
That's
come
one thing we
across-
gotta make
yeah.
sure. Jordan Morgan or just Morgan. Yeah.
Have you
Yeah.
ever come across an offensive lineman that intentionally was given the opportunity to return a kick like he was in high school? I mean, have you ever seen that?
No, I have not. I have not. I've seen some old linemen, you know, like, you see guys in high school play like field hockey or normal hockey and stuff like that. You're like, wow, that's pretty impressive at 300 some pounds. But yeah, no, that was pretty crazy.
Speaking of the offensive line, fascinated by how you feel where you're at, because you lose 3 guys who played a hell of a lot of football for you. Yet you've got a group of 5 that I would think that if you had to play a game tomorrow, you'd feel pretty good about that 5-some. And yet you've also added a first-round pick. So how do you, aside from just the flexibility and the versatility, how do you kind of feel about that mix right now and your options?
Yeah, very excited about it. I think, you know, it's just a matter of putting the best group out there. And there's a lot of different combinations, like I said, that, you know, we'll see. We'll see how it all shakes out. And that's one thing we always are pretty intentional about, is working guys at multiple positions just to kind of see where they fit best. So I think that's kind of what we'll be doing in OTAs in the early part of camp.
What was your first impression of Monk?
I liked him. He was very explosive when I saw him, you know, just doing his O-line drills and stuff like that. I thought he had a really good explosiveness off the ball, so that was pretty impressive. And that's what we saw on film too. So the cool thing is with those guys, there wasn't any bad surprises. It was all right, these guys looked the part, so it's just a matter of them picking up on the system and you know, fixing their technique and stuff like that. So yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Generating that competition that you had on the offensive line last year, is that more challenging since it is a younger group compared to?
No, I think it's because we got some depth. We got a lot of good depth. I think that it'll raise it up. You know, there's guys maybe who don't have as much experience as opposed to like a Sean Ryan versus John Runyon, but there's still a lot of guys who can play. So, you know, we're never afraid to play young guys. So it's just one of those things that we'll just give them all opportunities and see who rises.
What excites you the most about adding Josh Jacobs to this offense and just the way that you guys do things?
Yeah, Josh is a phenomenal running back. He's been doing, you know, all-pro a couple of times, and he's just one of those guys that's good in all situations. Good out of the backfield as a receiver, excellent runner. He's a good pass protector, so he's one of those guys that you can really have in the game all the time and not have to worry about anything with him. So that's nice. And just, you know, his experience, his leadership, things like that, you know, are things that I'm excited about having him here and doing a great job for us.
Back to the offensive line, I think back 10 years ago, and this team had a very memorable, good offensive line, but it's not like Dave was going to play right guard. It's not like TJ Lang was going to play left tackle. How much has the evolution of the thought process with versatility, having guys that can just play everywhere and still have that good offensive line, how much has that changed from what we used to?
I think it just depends kind of on your coaching philosophy. Because, like, I'm sure if David early in his career had played guard, he probably would have done a good job. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where if you believe in training guys in multiple positions and you kind of just do it that way, it's one of those things that guys just get used to, and you can kind of see them in different spots. So I would say just it's more of a coaching philosophy than anything for me.
Impression of Lloyd as a running back and maybe what you think he could bring?
Yeah, I like his speed. I liked his speed a lot. He had some good runs in OTAs where you saw his burst. He's got good vision, so I'm really excited about that, you know, out of the backfield.
To play back in 19, right? It was Aaron Jones,
Yeah,
Jamal,
it was
and
mostly
then AJ
Jamal,
just didn't play one game, basically. Can you see that same thing with Lloyd, or do you kind of need to get him out there?
No, I would like to get him out there as much as possible. I think, you know, he's got a skill set that's a little bit different than AJ's as far as his speed. You know, he's not quite the bruiser that he is, obviously, but he's got a different type of skill set. So it'll be nice to get him the ball in space and just see what he can do, because I think he's going to add a good explosive element to the offense for sure.
Been working with Halfley and getting to know him. Have you had him over to the house since he's been?
Well, yeah, I worked with him in San Francisco for a couple years, so it was cool because, you know, it was just like, hey, man, how you been the last 4 years? You know what I mean? So it was cool to be around him. Same guy. He's just such an intelligent, good dude. And then how he is with the players. Yeah, I'm excited about him, and I know he loves it here.
Did you see that trajectory for him, the defensive coordinator when you're working with the back?
Yeah, he was very intelligent, and I left to come here, and he went to Ohio State to become the defensive coordinator, so we kind of left at the same time too. And so it was cool to see him, get a head job at Boston College and do all that. So, yeah, I'm really, really excited to have him here.
Having Jordan back, making it easier to draw stuff up.
Jordan Love.
Jordan Love,
Okay,
sorry.
got it.
I got to work on that too.
Yeah.
How much does it help that you basically have your top 6 receivers
Yeah,
and top 2
I
or
mean,
3 tight ends back too?
Just like we were talking earlier, it's night and day. Like, we can go out there right now and just run plays, and it's not like we're installing everything for the first time. We can just say, hey, run this formation, whatever it is. We can start experimenting on things faster and just like, taking the next steps with the offense. So it's been good.
Davian obviously did really well last season, but kind of going into the offseason, what were things that you guys maybe preached to them about how to just come into year 2 even better?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, when you get guys who leave for the first time in the offseason, you want them to relax a little bit and just go be a normal person. But they also need to understand, when we come back, it's going to be work time. So you got to be in shape. And some guys understand that and some guys don't. The encouraging thing was every single guy that came back, they came back in great shape, ready to work. So that was nice just to see the maturity level of them and just being ready, being professional, and coming to get better.
Back to the offense and the jump. I'm not sure if we used those words, but I know it was several times with different guys that there was no expectations heading into last year offensively. So what are the expectations this year when you guys, the last 8 games last year, you guys are as hot as could be?
Yeah, we know how good we can be, but we need to understand that no one's going to hand anything to us in this league. Everything must be earned. It's just the intentionalness of going out there every single day and working hard and working at your craft and just being the best player that you can be. That's what's going to take us back to the playoffs and see as far as, get as far as we can go. So that's the biggest thing in this part of the year is just making sure we're taking those little steps to get better from wherever we're at, just getting better every single day.
2 more.
Adam, are you okay with the wide receiver room still pushing each other versus having an alpha kind of just take charge of that room and leading the group? Or?
Yeah, no, I would, it just depends on the kind of guys you have in there, but every single one of those guys is just such a intentional, hardworking guy that I think they all kind of just feed off each other. So it's been really cool to just see how they're all genuinely happy for each other's success, and they all just help each other out. So I think that's been cool to watch.
To your answer to Matt's question with the receivers and the tight ends, you said experimenting. You got 6, 8 receivers that could play for you right now with different skill sets. You've got Luke and obviously Tucker and Ben. How much more creative, how much more changing formations, basically play to play to play, can you be because of the wealth of pass catchers you have to kind of choose?
Yeah, I mean, you're always looking to take the next step. You have to keep evolving, and so it's just a matter of what's our best next step, you know what I mean, or next 2 things that we want to do. So that's the thing we can work on now. It's not just running the foundational base things, but now we can just, all right, let's see how this looks, you know what I mean, maybe get this guy the ball in a certain way, whatever it is, a certain package with particular players on the field, just stuff like that where you can see, all right, is this the direction we want to go? Cool. Thanks, guys.
then was a little taller than me. I think maybe Matt and I are kind of similar, but that's rare. All right, what do we got?
Jeff, when you envision the ideal safety for your defense, how close is Xavier McKinney to fitting that description?
No, it's funny you guys asked me about that before we signed him, right? The last time I was here. One, I'll just say it's been so nice to have X. What a pro. I mean, how hard he works, the communication, the way he is in the meeting rooms, the way he looks out for the younger guys. I mean, that's the stuff you don't see. I mean, all the stuff I explained to you in my first meeting, yeah, we think he can do all those things, and he's shown that he can. But the coolest part about him is, and I told him this the other day, is you don't find out really about somebody and who they are and how hard they work until they get here. And that's been the thing that's made probably us the happiest. Great pro, great attitude, great effort. He's done a great job so far. So really excited to have him here, continue to have him grow in the scheme and really understand the scheme. And again, I think it's our job to put him in position to make a lot of things happen. So it's been fun to kind of see everything that he can do and how quickly he can learn. And I'm really glad we have him.
Positions evolve. Linebackers it's more of a space position than it used to be. But how do you stop the inside run with two linebackers who are built like Cooper and Walker?
Well, they're pretty big guys. I mean, they're 230 plus pounds. I mean, the day of playing with 255-pound linebackers, I'm not sure there's many of them left. I mean, we got big backers. I'm not worried about those guys, Quay or McDuff or any of those guys stopping the run. You got to be able to run. You got to be able to shrink the field. And then those guys, Coach Camp's doing a great job teaching them how to use their hands, where to put their eyes, and how to play the run. But they're plenty big. And I'm really excited about that. I'm excited about all the guys we have in that room. You know, I know we want to talk about the draft picks right now, but the guys that we have coming back, and Wilson and Duff and Quay, I mean, I'm really pleased with those guys right now. And now there's great competition, which I think is the key to everything. But those guys got good size.
Rico Ryan's done at the owners' meetings about the emphasis that defense puts on coverage for linebackers. He said they have to do that a lot, probably more than in other defenses. What do you gain out of that? Why do you like to have your defense built around where your linebackers have a lot of coverage responsibilities?
I'm not sure if it's just the coverage. It's the speed and the athleticism and the ability to play in space. I mean, if you look right now, I mean, just look at the first round. Look at how many guys were drafted to catch the ball and run, or to play in space and score fast. I mean, we need guys that can run and shrink the field. And there's certain ways to do that, right? You get guys who have really good length and they can play the game this way. And then you have guys that can fly. And we're fortunate to have a couple guys that have length and can run. But this is a game that there's so much speed on the offensive side of the ball that, you know, whether we're playing a vision and break zone or a man coverage, you have to be able to run right now. And I'm sure D'Amico, if you look at who he's got and the linebackers and the safeties, it's very similar. I mean, all those guys can run and hit. And for us, it's also about play style. And that's why I think we went out and got guys, both in free agency and in the draft, that we're going to like the way they play when we turn on the tape. They love football, and they're going to run and hit.
When you have two of those guys at linebacker with that kind of length and athleticism, from a creativity, schematic standpoint, how many doors does that open for you?
Well, I think we're going to do what we do. You know, we're going to play a variety of coverage and figure out what they can do best. You got to be careful. I mean, we can't try to do too much where we don't do anything fast. I mean, our philosophy is get really good at what we do and do it over and over again. So we're playing 100 miles per hour. If you try to do too much, you slow them down. So that's definitely not what we want to do. But because they are versatile, we can put them in different areas and kind of plug and play within the scheme. And I know Quay, just being around him, he can rush off the edge. He can blitz on the inside. He can run games, and he can play linebacker. And he has man coverage ability. So he gives you a lot of versatility in that regard.
And then obviously Edgar shown in college that he can get after the passer too from that position. Do you, when you've got guys that are capable of that off the ball, do you bake that into your scheme? Like, okay, we can use this in the pass rushing, or do you just kind of go off what they can do?
Those guys can both rush off the edge, or they can both blitz, or they can run games, and they have 3-down value, and you can put them in on 3rd down and mug them up, or put them off the edge, or try to get the offensive line to go one-on-one and create a mismatch with them and their speed, then we have to do it. You know, I've seen what Quay can do a little bit more than I've seen what Coop can do right now live. I'm excited to get Coop back here and really have Coach Camp teach him and really get our hands on him. But I like what he did at rookie minicamp. He came in with a great attitude. He showed his athletic ability. I mean, he's a great-looking kid, and, you know, I'm glad we have him. Just with all those rookies right now, I mean, if you think about them, we brought them in on a Thursday. We practiced Friday and Saturday, and now they're back, you know, and they'll be here again next week. So we just kind of saw a small piece of that, but I'm really excited to get him back.
Javon mentioned you actually were part of the contingent that was recruiting him out of high school. I just wonder what you remember about him back then, and just kind of the prospect that he, you know, became now.
Well, I recruited a lot of guys, so just loved his tape, loved the way he played, loved the play style, loved the versatility. He's a physical guy. He can run, he can cover, he can play deep, he can play in the slot, he can blitz, and he's bigger when you see him. You guys have you seen him? Did you see him yet? He's thick, strong, and then the best part about it is, and I kind of said the same thing about X, is you don't really know what you're getting until you get in the meeting room with him. I mean, he's a sharp guy. I mean, his ability to learn and process in those 2 days was impressive. And you get a guy who can play that fast and, you know, can take what he learned in the meeting room and bring it out to the field, and he's got a chance. So, again, a small little glimpse of what we're, you know, going to get when they get here, but excited to have him.
A guy like King in the 7th round, when maybe some people thought he would have been or should have been taken a lot higher. What do you think you got there?
Really good football player, has really good instincts. You know, he played on the inside, he played on the outside. He's a physical guy. He'll tackle. From watching his tape in college, I thought he made a ton of plays with those instincts. He can play the ball down the field. I love the way he runs and hits. Really not sure why he fell to when he did. But, you know, you have conversations with guys like that. At this point, it doesn't matter where you were drafted anymore. It's what are you going to do now going forward? And he's got an opportunity here to do that. And again, in the little that we saw of him this weekend, really, really glad he's here. And you could see he's probably got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder coming in, but eventually you're here. Get over the fact of where you were drafted and go make the most of what's ahead.
History with a guy who, I mean, I'm sure everybody thinks they should have been picked higher, but a guy that maybe was that much different. Do you have think of a guy that you worked with in the past that really kind of was like that and took off from there?
Yeah, one of the best I ever was around was K'Wan Williams, who was a starting nickel for us in Cleveland. We took him as a tryout guy, and he started over a first-round pick, and then he came with me to San Francisco, and then he stayed there, and then he was at Denver. But, I mean, again, you get an opportunity in this league, and you make the most of it. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter when you were picked, but there's plenty of stories like that, and he's just one that was in kind of a similar role position-wise. I'm not comparing him to K'Wan. I haven't seen him enough yet. I think K'Wan's one of the best to play that position in a system like this, but he's the first one that comes to mind.
Warner, do you have any, I realize that it's May 6th, do you have any feel for the corners other than Jair, but like what the talent, the depth that you have at that position?
Yeah, I mean, just from watching, we're in phase 2 now, so we're on the field doing some individual work. I think DA, Coach Hansley's done a really nice job with those guys. Obviously mentioning Ja, I mean, he's been another one of those guys, attentive. He's here. He's working really hard. He's been great in the classroom. His drill work's been outstanding. You know, I think Stokes is a guy that, you know, I've seen him play, seen the film, seen the speed. He's been impressive so far. Valentine's done a really nice job. I think all those guys. Keyshawn's done a good job. Those are good football players. And right now, I'll say this, the whole defense, I mean, the three things we ask, the attitude, the effort, and the commitment. And that's what they can control that, and they've done a really good job there. The effort's been outstanding on the field, the commitment to the team and to each other. I mean, there's a ton of energy out there. I think Coach LaFleur has done a great job. There's a really good vibe right now, and I think that's a great starting point, and we're just installing our defense, and we have a long way to go, but you can't ask for anything else. The way these guys have attacked it and how hard they've worked, and that's one group that it's fun to watch right now, and we'll see. Again, I think the competition is so important, right? It's going to bring out the best in those guys, and they're going to get coached really well. You'll get a chance to talk to Coach Ansley this week, I believe. I mean, he's done a great job with those guys, really has.
boring process question, but we haven't talked to you in like 3 months. I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
it's been that long?
Yeah, I think you just moved
I
into
haven't
Lodge
been here
Kohler
for
at the
3
time.
months, yeah. I'm out of Lodge Kohler. I'm out. I kind of miss certain aspects of it, but my family's here, so I'd rather have that.
So, you know, you've been here, I think, 2 weeks when we talked to you at first, and now here we are in May. You've got the guys back in phase 2. How do you install a defense? How do you get all the coaches on the same page? How do you get ready to teach the players it? And then what's next once you got them in OTAs and you start to actually be able to do it on the field?
I could probably spend a half hour explaining that to you, but I don't think everybody else would be too happy with me or you if I spend on that question. But I appreciate that question. One, we had the staff here, so we sat down and we kind of looked at our vision of what we wanted this defense to be. And then you decide what you want to install early and see how much we can get in the short time that we have. And then you look at all the meeting time that we've been able to get with these guys, and you have a lot of time in the classroom. So we just kind of mapped out our installation. We detailed the fundamentals and techniques of the coverages that we want to play first, and we're doing a lot of, we're kind of going from part to whole, right? We're teaching certain drops, we're teaching certain coverages, and then we're kind of showing them how they can plug and play and become a whole bunch of different coverages. So we're kind of stressing the fundamentals of the techniques within the coverages, because without those, I don't think you can be good at anything. And there's other things like attacking the ball, and we want to do the little things right. And then with that, when we feel like we have a good foundation, because without a good foundation, you have no chance, we're trying to build that, and then we're adding to the coverages. And then I think ultimately for us is, let's see how much we can get in and get really good, and let's not rush, right? Let's get really good at a few things, and let's install them and do them over and over again. And then we'll see where we're at the end of this thing and go into training camp and seeing what else we need. But I think for us too, it's getting a feel for the players that we have live. Now we got free agencies done and we added some additions, and then you get the draft picks and you see what they have, and let's kind of see who fits where, and then see how much we need or where we feel comfortable. I think we're in a great place right now, and that's a credit to the staff. But we've got a good amount of time with these guys to teach it in the classroom, walk through it, and then go on the field and do a little bit before we get to phase 3 and we get to practice.
I'm curious with a guy like TJ Slayton. He's played in a 3-4. He's kind of got prototypical size for that 3-4 nose. Had a really good season last year. How do you make sure that translates to a 4-3, especially when a lot of the snaps might come when you are in that base?
Yeah, I mean, I think he can play nose. You put him in a 0 in a 3-4. You put him in a shade, or you put him in a, put him inside leverage of a guard, and he's still right around that A gap. There's things we can do with him. We can tighten him up and get into some 3-4 spacing. We can just play him at the nose position, but he's been another guy. I mean, that whole D-line, if you guys were out at practice and you could hear and feel that energy, I think Rebs and VO, I mean, that group's humming, and they're getting off the ball, and they're playing fast, and that group has to attack. That's not going to be a passive read and react. And no, they're going to go, and they're going to get off the ball. And before we break every meeting and I dismiss them and talk to the back end, I tell them to go get after the quarterback. And that's what they're going to do. And then you get a big guy like that against the run. I mean, that nose has to be he has to be a guy that makes it really hard to run the football. And he's got the size and he's got the body to do that. Now we got to coach him up and make sure we get the most out of him. But he's done a nice job so far.
Do you, I stumbled across the Viper position when I was online.
I don't have a Viper. If you,
Because it made it sound like at BC you might have.
I've never had a Viper position. Maybe some people in the scheme call the strong safety the nickel Viper, but shoot, maybe one day we will. But I got no Viper for you right now.
With young players, how do you strike that balance between maximizing the versatility that they have and also making sure that they become really comfortable in one or two areas?
Fundamentals and technique, like that, and that's, I guess that's, I was trying to answer your question. Like, there's nothing more important than fundamentals and technique, and that's whether it's the D-line getting off the ball and working on their stance and starts, or whether it's the guy learning how to play man-to-man or zone drop and where to put his eyes and what to do and how to react when certain things happen. Tackling, attacking the football, like the things that are going to be most important in our game, taking on a block, where to put their eyes, getting off the block. Like, those are the things that you got to teach these guys, because without that, you can't play, right? And that's That's whether you're hitting a sled or you're tackling a bag. I mean, you can't take those things for granted. You know, we want to, you know, diagram all these blitzes and all these coverages, which we all can do, but if we're not playing fast and physical and getting off blocks and tackling, then none of that matters. So that's what we're going to teach them right now. And then you start to insert them where we feel they fit, right? And then we got a pretty good defense, because it's still about the players. It's not about the scheme right now. It's about the players. It's about our job maximizing their ability, which I talked to you guys about when I first got here. And now that we see what we have, now we got to make sure we do that. And that's why you love coming to work every day right now. I mean, it's just, I mean, for me, it's just football again. And these guys are so bought in. And like I said, give Coach LaFleur and these guys credit. I mean, this team is driven right now. And that's not saying we're going to do this or we're going to do that down the road, but you got a chance. You come in and you're doing what these players are doing every day, you got a chance. So I'm fired up about that.
Those fundamentals and techniques, are they a lot different than what the existing guys would have been playing in the last system? Like, a bunch of us were here in '09 when they went from a 4-3 to Dom Capers and the 3-4. And I know with how much of a nickel league this is, that there's not that much variance for a lot of the schematic stuff. But, you know, the coverages you're going to play, you know, you've talked a lot about having vision. And I mean, are those techniques and fundamentals different than maybe what these guys, are they learning a lot of new stuff?
At some positions they are, and some have done them in college, so a lot's coming back to them. Some have done them at other stops and other systems they've played in the NFL. You know, for the D-line, they're going to be asked to do some different things than they would playing in 3-4 spacing. Some are going to have their hand down on the ground more. But when it comes to getting off blocks and tackling, and I mean, those guys have all done that. It's just sharpening it, making it better. But there's certainly some things in coverage that are going to be new, and that's what we're trying to spend the most amount of time on now, so they get a good understanding. And I think that all is going to be a process, and our job is, as we go, just keep getting better and faster and get better at it and get faster at it, because they have to be comfortable. And that's the whole key, right? Like I talk about, I want a defense that's going to be confident, and it's not going to be like nervous about making mistakes. And I want play style is important to me and how fast we play and physical and attacking the ball and all that stuff. But the only way to do that is they got to know what they're doing, right? So you teach all those things we talked about, then you learn the scheme, and then you let them go play. So there's some things that are new. But the cool part is right now they're all buying in and really focusing on learning it. And that's what gives us a chance each day when we come in. So you give those guys credit for that.
Thanks, Coach.
You guys good?
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, see you guys.